What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another week of NFL Picks, Week 6. This is officially the third waypoint of the NFL season. It's already flown by. We're already here. For some teams, you could really already say the season's already over. Teams like the Carolina Panthers, Denver Broncos, Chicago Bears, Arizona Cardinals, sitting at 1 wins. In Carolina's case, they don't even have a win yet. These are teams that some of them, their season, really, there was never much of any expectation, but some of these teams, some disappointments. But still, a lot of teams are very much in this thing. Another good week of games coming up. And really, as these weeks start to go on, we're in the middle of October now. The anticipation and intensity of these games is going to continue to ramp up. But got another good week of games here on the slate. So let's get right into it. Starting off Thursday night, or not Thursday night football. Little recap. Last week I went 8-6, which definitely is good. I improved on where I was the week before. There was only 14 games this week, so definitely there was less room for error, but being able to go 8-6, I would say is pretty solid. 49-29 so far for the overall record. 4-1 on lock of the week, 2-3 on upset of the week. Two teams on a bye this week. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Green Bay Packers both got week 6 byes. Pittsburgh coming off of that sloppy win versus Baltimore. The offense still looks stagnant. They definitely should fire Matt Canada, but will they? Probably not. And as far as Green Bay goes, there's a lot of questions. Now, after that crushing loss last night, is Jordan Love even the guy in Green Bay? But those two teams, they get to sit back this weekend and just watch 7 hours of red zone. So getting right into it, though, Thursday night football, the Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs. Denver this year with Sean Payton. I mean, I don't think a lot of people expected Denver to come in first year with Sean Payton and be breathing down the Chiefs' throat in the AFC West. But I don't think people are expecting it to be as bad as it is, especially with the defense. That defense looks atrocious this year. It went from one of the better defenses in the NFL the last few years. And that Denver offense really was the reason for their struggles last year too. The offense has taken a step up, but that defense, it just looks absolutely awful without Evero leading it. In Kansas City, I mean, this really should not come as a shock for anyone. The Chiefs are going to win this game. You can even say only giving Kansas City 33 is generous, but 33-16, I'd probably say is the final score here. Kansas City absolutely just rolls over them. This just honestly, I mean, they haven't beaten the Chiefs since Peyton Manning was on their team, and that sure as hell ain't changing this matchup. The Chiefs are starting to get into their rhythm. They're starting to get going. They're going to slap Denver all over here on Thursday night. Sunday morning, got for the third straight week a London game. Sunday morning, the Baltimore Ravens and Tennessee Titans. Tennessee is designated as the home team here. I think this is the last London game this season. I believe we have a few games in Germany, and we might have a game in Mexico. But I definitely do think this is the last London game this season. As far as this game goes, it can really, I mean, there's really nothing much to make out of this matchup. These are two teams still in the thick of it in their respective divisions. Baltimore up there with Pittsburgh in the AFC North, tied for first. Pittsburgh obviously has the tiebreaker since they beat Baltimore last week. And Tennessee's only one game back in the AFC South. But this game, you really don't know what to make out of it. It's not really the most exciting or intriguing matchup. Obviously, the receivers for Baltimore, I mean, cost them the game last week. I don't think there's any argument about it. In Tennessee, you have to respect that front D line. They can cause pressure. They can wreak havoc. But I will say where I think this game probably ultimately comes down to is Baltimore's defense and that Tennessee offense, even though they have had some nice outings against Cincinnati and even the LA Chargers, it's just been abysmal at times. And this, I mean, having to travel across the pond, Tennessee, not really a team that familiar with doing it. I think that probably definitely, I don't think it's going to have a good effect on their offense. Derrick Henry really looks like a shell of his former self. He's starting to look more like that, which it's hard and tough to say, but that is just the truth. Ryan Tannehill, he's probably nearing the end of his NFL career at the way he's been playing at sometimes this season. And outside of that, man, this offense, it doesn't look encouraging at all in Tennessee. So I'm going to give the Ravens this one. I think this is one where Baltimore's defense shines. And I'm going to give this one to Baltimore here. Heading into the 1 o'clock window, the 0-5 Carolina Panthers at the Miami Dolphins, who, I mean, we don't have to say much of anything about Miami's offense. It got right back on track last week versus the Giants. Carolina, I for one expected maybe they get off to a slow start because Frank Reich has a history with getting off to slow starts. And Bryce Young, it is his first year in the NFL, rookie year, new coaching staff. Everyone has to gel together, but man, it's just looked absolutely awful in Carolina. There have been some spots where they could have won games, but man, at times it's just looked abysmal, and that offense looks like it has no life. And man, that defense is going to, I think, just get absolutely torched here. I don't think it's really a shocker. Miami wins this one. To me, I think, number one, the Panther secondary is not really that good at all without J.C. Horn. And even though Devon Achane being out is going to hurt Miami in some ways, because they are obviously down a guy who has came along the past few weeks as another big home run threat to go along with Hill and Waddle. You still got those two there. That's where you're going to do your damage when you're Miami. And you're going to roll in this game. The offense is going to roll here. So 38-13, I think. Carolina, they're going to go into their bye week 0-6, and they're going to be searching for a lot of answers. Miami, they continue their great season so far early on, going to 5-1. This next game, the New Orleans Saints and Houston Texans. This is an interesting game, a game that I think could definitely go either way. The Saints, I mean, absolutely, you can say it, maybe put one of the final nails in the coffin to the Bill Belichick era, shutting out New England last week. Houston, they came here to Atlanta and they put up a great fight, but they did fall short. We know that Houston offense at its ceiling can be absolutely potent and dangerous, but give the flowers to the Saints defense. They have looked very good at times, especially last week. And I still think, even though I love the direction Houston is heading in, I feel like they need another year. They're going to need this year and this offseason to really improve. And maybe next year you're talking a team who can contend in the AFC South. But right now, I think the Saints are the more established team. They have more veterans on it. So I will go ahead. I'll give this one to New Orleans here. I think the defense probably comes out and probably is going to do a lot of what we did last week in terms of just rattling C.J. Stroud, getting him to throw off of his back foot, containing those weapons. The Saints offense does just enough to get the win. Next game, Falcons and Washington, Commanders, Redskins, whatever you want to call them. Matt Ryan on the call in this game. I do plan on being at this game, but I'll just see how it plays out. I'm not locked in yet, but I do definitely want to be there. I'm obviously not going to talk much about it because even though I didn't do a preview video last week, I do plan on doing one for the game this week. I'm not going to talk much about it. It's going to be another stingy game. Washington, obviously coming off of that embarrassing loss to Chicago on Thursday night, they're going to be looking to get back in the win column. You cannot make a joke out of that Washington front four. Even though they can be inconsistent when they're clicking, it is as good of a front four as any in the NFL. But at home, I'm going to go ahead and give it to us. I think it's going to be a stingy ball game. I'll talk more about it tomorrow, but I think we'll get the win here, 19-14 to go to 4-2 on the year. Washington 2-4, but I'll talk more about that tomorrow. Next game, the Indianapolis Colts at Jacksonville Jaguars. The top two teams in the AFC South. Jacksonville really looks like they finally came along in London. Getting the win versus Atlanta week 4, and last week versus Indianapolis or versus Buffalo, they got a very nice win. So coming back home to face an Indianapolis team, and I don't think Anthony Richardson plays this week. It'll be Minshew, who obviously has experience in Jacksonville, but the Colts ain't beaten the Jaguars in Jacksonville since like 2014. I don't think that's changing here. I think Jacksonville is going to keep that streak going. I think the offense continues to come along. And I feel like this could be that letdown game for Indianapolis' offense. I feel like Jacksonville's defense is trying to find its rhythm and groove. And I definitely feel like I think this is a game they definitely could. So I'll go ahead and say I think Jacksonville wins pretty convincingly to claim that first place spot in the AFC South. Next game, Seattle at Cincinnati. I feel like this should be a good game, definitely. Two offenses that can definitely be potent, definitely can be high-powered. But Cincinnati, it just feels like he got that win last week for Arizona. Jamar Chase went off. Burrow might finally be finding his rhythm. It feels like when you're Cincinnati, they're going to have to put it together, and they will at some point to finally look like those Bengals teams we've seen the past few years. And I think this is another step you take. Obviously, going to be a good game. Seattle is a tough team. They are a tough defense to go up against. But I definitely feel like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, that Bengals offense, this is where you get it going at home. And I think you're going to get another win here, get back to 500. Seattle falls to 3-2. But I think Cincinnati, it's time for them to get back into a rhythm and back in this AFC North race. Next game, Minnesota and Chicago. Man, you're talking about both teams, but especially Minnesota. You're looking at really might be in a worse position than Chicago. And I don't know who would have thought that. Justin Jefferson is out the next 4 games. And you're talking about you might see Kirk Cousins, a rare starting quarterback, trade at the trade deadline, which I still wouldn't bet on happening, but it has been discussed. It has been rumored. I think this is probably going to end up being a battle of you're going to see a lot of high scoring because I don't think these two defenses are very good. I will go ahead and give Minnesota the victory here. Better quarterback. I like Jordan Addison. But man, it definitely feels like Chicago could win this game. But I'll go ahead and I'll give it to the Vikings right now. I think this is probably going to be a big Jordan Addison game, along with Kirk Cousins. And I think Minnesota, I'll give them the win here to go to 2-4, but still it's not a good position to be in by any account for the Vikings. And one way or another, that schedule is still tough coming up. They could be major sellers here coming up pretty soon, especially a guy like Danielle Hunter, who I might have a video coming out here in a little bit about considering it. But I think Minnesota wins. Next game, the San Francisco 49ers, the undefeated 49ers, one of 2 NFL teams undefeated at the 2-2 Cleveland Browns. Cleveland coming off their bye week. Deshaun Watson is banged up. There are doubts he might play this Sunday. And the thing is, man, I really honestly feel like Cleveland could definitely stay in this game. I feel like this is a game where 49ers are 5-0, but it feels like that letdown has to happen at some point for the 49ers and Brock Purdy. And I think Cleveland's defense might be able to do that. I don't think a lot of people necessarily see it. Myles Garrett, I think they have the guys to stay in this game on the defensive side of the ball. But what kills them from being able to maybe pull this off, in my opinion, is the quarterback. Because I think one way or another, where it's an injured Deshaun Watson or a Dorian Thompson-Robinson or a P.J. Walker, who they just signed off of Chicago, it's going to be a tough sledding game. And that offense is going to have a horrific day against that 49ers defense. So I'm going to go ahead and say I think San Francisco stays undefeated. I think Cleveland stays in this game, though, for a good bit. But eventually San Francisco will pull away and will get that win. Improving their record, staying undefeated. Cleveland drops to 2-3. Going to be looking to maybe get Deshaun Watson back, and hopefully a Deshaun Watson that can produce at a high level for them. Heading into the 4 o'clock window here, this is a game that, there's really not much of any excitement around. If you want to call it kind of like a tank bowl or whatever, this is probably it. Even though the Raiders did get a nice win last night. New England and Las Vegas, student versus teacher, Belichick versus McDaniels. Talk about an embarrassing last 2 weeks for New England. Scoring 3 points in the grand total of 2 weeks is just absolutely embarrassing. Something you never thought you'd see out of a Bill Belichick team. Mac Jones, it looks like that experiment's coming to an end. New England really has no identity at all. And same can be said for the Raiders. I'm going to go ahead and say New England does bounce back. I think they're going to have a nice day with their defense that's really going to carry them to this win. I think Belichick's going to want to win this game against McDaniels, but they did lose to the Raiders last year. And even though I'm saying they will win, I don't think it's entirely impossible the Raiders can pull this thing off. And if they do, then you could be looking at a disaster ready to open, like the floodgates are ready to just open up in New England. But I think it's going to be held off here for this week. I do think the Patriots get this win just because I'm not sold on the Raiders in any way. 425. This game was actually flexed. The Detroit Lions and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Two teams that obviously Detroit, a lot of expectations. They've exceeded every bit of it. Tampa Bay, they have absolutely came out and shocked people. They lead the NFC South here through the first few weeks of the season. They had their bye week last week. They're breaking out their old throwback uniforms, the creamsicle uniforms. So really you're looking at it, Tampa Bay here with, I think this is supposed to be like the nationally televised game for Fox this week. So you're going to have a lot of eyes on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Detroit Lions. I will say, though, I was maybe thinking this is a game Tampa Bay might be able to win. But this, honestly, as I think more of it, it just feels like a game Detroit is going to come out and could very well do what Philadelphia did. I feel like their Aiden Hutchinson especially is going to be a force for this Tampa Bay offensive line that I don't know if they can necessarily contain. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one to Detroit. I think their offense eventually does get it going here. And I'll go ahead, give this one to Detroit. I think that they improved to 5-1. Tampa Bay drops to 3-2, but definitely still right in the thick of it in the NFC South. Next game. The Arizona Cardinals and Los Angeles Rams. The Rams, these are two teams that, as far as Arizona goes, yes, there was really no expectations for them at all, but they're a team that is playing with their heart on their chest, and you got to give them respect for that. Josh Dobbs is playing out of his mind, and they're in these games that they really should not be in. They got a win versus Dallas. You can definitely say they shouldn't have got, but they did. Even though the Cowboys do, they are just really an underwhelming team to watch. And the Rams, they're a team that it just feels like they're there. But they definitely could be here in December. It's possible they could be in contention for that final wild card in the NFC. This feels like it's going to be a close game. Doesn't feel like it's going to be anything crazy. I think the Rams probably do come out. I think they do get this win. Probably won't be the best win, but a win is a win. Gonna be a tough game in my opinion. Probably low scoring, winning more on that side. But I think Matthew Stafford and the Rams, they're gonna make the plays. Nakua is still a dog. Cooper Kupp getting back in there. I think this is a game Arizona comes out, wins, gets back to 500, back in that NFC playoff race. But still got to give credit to Arizona for playing with their heart on their chest. Final game. The Philadelphia Eagles, the other remaining undefeated team in the NFL, versus the New York Jets. The Jets the last few weeks have shown improvement, especially with that offense. Now, Zach Wilson didn't have the best game last week, but you saw some of what he could do versus a Kansas City team. And I have a feeling that coming back to MetLife, I don't think the Jets win this game, but I think this could very well end up being a damn good game. Philadelphia, I feel like, pulls it out in the end. But I think Zach Wilson could come out this game and play pretty all right. I could definitely see it. Maybe he just comes out and plays like trash. I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and say Zach Wilson has an all right game, continues to show some flashes finally. I'm still going to go ahead and say Philadelphia wins this game. Sunday Night Football, God, I don't know why we have to see the Giants in primetime again. I mean, this is the fourth time through the first 6 weeks we've seen this. Going up to Buffalo to face a Bills team that's looking to get back in the win column. I'm not going to explain this game at all. I think the Giants, honestly, if you're talking about one of the more underwhelming teams to watch in the NFL, it's probably them. And man, it's just tough to watch them, especially in these primetime spots. So I'm saying they're going to travel up to Buffalo and probably get smacked around again in primetime. I hope this is the only primetime game they have for the rest of the year. I hope they're done in primetime because they've had enough. So yeah, I think Buffalo rolls. I'll say this is the lock of the week. And as far as Monday night goes, Dallas and the Chargers. The Cowboys obviously got embarrassed on Sunday night versus San Francisco. And the Chargers, coming off their bye week, they're 2-2. They are looking to stay in the thick of things in the AFC playoff race. Now, the Cowboys, they have come out in the past after embarrassing losses and have had a tendency to smack teams around. But the Chargers, Justin Herbert, one way or another, is what this team rides off of, and he's a damn good quarterback. Even with all the injuries in that receiving core, and yes, their defense might not be the best, but Justin Herbert, I feel like this is a game that he is going to come and ball out in, and I don't like the Cowboys necessarily in this matchup. I feel like Dallas is a team that you're really looking at it. They're kind of staggering all these questions. I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Chargers. It's kind of like the upset of the week. I think it's a close game. I just really feel Monday night in LA, yes, mostly Cowboys fans, but I feel like the Chargers are going to find a way to get it done primarily off of Justin Herbert. So that is that. Week 6 picks. Another good week of games coming up as we get obviously later on into this season. And the intensity continues to ramp up. So I will see you guys later this week for some Falcons. Oh, by the way, yes, I know what happened. Van Jefferson got traded to the Falcons. I might have a video coming about that later tonight. If not, definitely tomorrow or Thursday. I'll have my full thoughts about that. I'll also have another video about maybe some guys the Falcons could trade for at the trade deadline. And obviously the Falcons Commanders preview coming out tomorrow. But with that being said, you guys take it easy. I'll see you guys in the next one.